I know what I'm meant to be doing. Why do I not just do it? That problem is the thorn in the side of almost every single person on the face of the earth that is struggling to lose weight and get in shape. If you have ever asked yourself that question, I promise you, you are not alone. I have too, a lot of times for a very, very long time. It's agonizing that you can know exactly what your goal is, to lose weight, to stop going to the beach with a shirt on, to have nice things to say about yourself when you catch your reflection coming out the shower. But no matter how tight you are on what the goal is, the cheeseburgers always win out, or whatever your particular flavor of self-sabotage is. The question is, why? Why does that happen? Well, there's actually a pretty simple reason. And in this video, I'm going to show you what it is and what you can do about it. And I'm going to give you a step-by-step system you can use to get a handle on it and stop getting in your own damn way. This might challenge the way that you think, but if you want to start sticking to the plan, to hit the goals that you just can't seem to, and to stop self-sabotaging and get yourself on track, I promise you, this is going to change things for you. But before we start, the first thing that we have to do is kick off by dunking on the usual way of doing things. So let me tell you, the idea that setting a goal, even one of those SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound, even one of those has got to go. Setting a goal is the wrong approach. It sounds wacky, I know, but work with me here. About 10 years ago, I had around 20 kilos to lose, and I wanted it real bad, so I set a goal. But for the first few years of trying to lose it, I just crashed out again and again and again. I love to cook and I love to eat, and I would crush my diet Monday through Friday, and then when the weekend rolled around, all of that would go out the window, and then I would just want to headbutt the wall in front of me, right? And I couldn't wrap my mind around it because I knew I wanted it bad. My number one goal was to finally lose my gut and to get in shape and hopefully to stay that way for good. But, you know, the reality is that actions talk, and mine were saying that it definitely was not that much of a priority for me. That was really hard to understand because I knew it mattered, but it wasn't showing up in what I was doing. So anyway, one day I was cooking for a mate and I put something good together and he ate it and said to me, "Man, you really love this cooking stuff, eh? You ever going to do anything with it? You're going to open a restaurant one day?" And I thought nothing of it, and I went back to stuffing my face like I had a job to do. But the question kind of stuck for me a little bit. And here's where it gets kind of juicy. I didn't have a goal of opening a restaurant, but I did love to cook and eat good food, and I loved getting better at it. That for me was the penny drop, was that I was just winning at the wrong goal. And this is true for anyone that's ever said to themselves, why don't I just do the damn things that I say I'll do? It's not as simple as just failing at one goal. I've got a client who, when we started working together, fell off the wagon every weekend for months. And it was because all of her friends loved to catch up over food. She didn't not care about her weight loss goal, but she had another one of being a good friend with a thriving social life. I've got another client who keeps blowing out, who badly wants to lose weight so that he can keep up with his kids, but he also doesn't want to be the dad that ruins the fun and stops his family from going out and being spontaneous and getting food together. That's not a bad thing for him to want, but this is where stuff gets hairy because we've got this big tangle of different things driving us, and they don't always match up with each other. And there are people out there and coaches out there who might look at my client and go, he clearly doesn't care about his goals. And they'd be dead wrong. He just cares about the goal of being a great dad more, or he hasn't figured out how to balance both of those things yet. And understanding this is crucial, because if you're convinced that you're just a flog who can't stick to things, then slowly it's going to erode your confidence and you'll start giving in to every whim because you think you're a person who just can't stick to shit. By the way, before I go on, I've got a free email column where I give advice daily on stuff like this. If you don't like it, you can just unsubscribe from it. Now let's keep going. All right, so unless you want to tank your self-confidence and your self-trust, you need to stop pretending that having a goal is a solution and acting like you only have one of them. But if we're doing away with goals, then we need something else to replace them. We need a system. And I ain't that lucky. Here is one that I prepared earlier. This is my 6-step process to gorilla glue level sticking power. Let's get into it. Step number 1. Imagine that you're planning an expedition. You've decided you're going to go and climb a mountain, one that you've never climbed before. If you want to pull it off, the first thing that you do is not to pack gear or to start mapping out a route or anything else. You need to start by picking the mountain. And that is step number one in this process. It's establishing a vision. If you want to start nailing your diet and doing the things that you said you would do, you need to know where you're going. You need to have a 3D, 4K Technicolor picture of what it looks like when you get there, when all the important things have been taken care of. It sounds kind of hippy-dippy and woo-woo, but your brain uses something called prospection. It's future simulation. You think if you don't put a destination into your maps, then if you start driving the wrong direction, it can't course correct because it doesn't know where we're going. Step number two, you might think that the next thing in this metaphor is to pack, but we've got loads of different goals like we touched on earlier. You've got all these different things that you could chase, that some of them move you towards where you say that you want to go, and some motivations, even if they're good, don't. Step number two for us is inventory. It's like looking at all your gear before you start to pack. You want to make sure that we don't start loading up your bag with a bunch of summer kit if you're hiking up a freezing cold snow-covered mountain. We got to realize that we have these big sexy goals that we know, like getting abs or losing 10 kilos or toning our butts. But we've also got less sexy goals like avoiding pain or having treats or being comfy on the couch instead of sweating in a gym. They are less sexy, but they're just as real. And if you want to make sure that you're not prioritizing the wrong gear by default, then you need to inventory first. I've got two lists. I've got a list of my explicit goals. They're the sexy ones that I know about, that I talk about. But I also have a list of implicit goals. These are the less sexy ones that I have to be honest do exist for me, that I've chased in the past, that have made me fail. And I need to know they're there so that when I'm chasing after the wrong rabbit, I can catch myself doing it instead of pretending that it doesn't exist. Now, some of your implicit goals will make you feel great. Things like wanting to be a good dad or a good mum. And some of the things that you realize that you chase after are going to make you feel like a total loser when you realize that sometimes you just choose being lazy because it's nicer than trying. But if you don't inventory it, it'll be very hard not to pack it without realizing. You can't untangle the unknown very well. So you need to know what all your motivations are if you plan on making it to your vision. Step number three, and now we get a little bit more hands-on. We have to be thinking, of all the goals that I have, what is mission critical if I want to make it to my vision? So you're looking at all of the real and sexy goals and the real and sometimes ugly goals that drive you, and you need to lock in on which ones get top rank, which are the things that actually make the vision happen. We have to sort. If your view at the top of your summit is being in shape you're proud of, then does the I don't feel like having my meal prep today, or oh, but all my friends are going out, does that fit the picture if the criteria for choosing is, am I making it to the peak of my mountain? We need to isolate, we need to separate, we need to lock in on which things are integral to the vision, and we need to document them. You're gonna have other explicit and other implicit goals, and they matter too, but you also need to know that they didn't make the top cut so you can stop yourself chasing them if you're going after them and they are the wrong goal for right now. Step number four, here's the reality. There are always going to be conflicts with the goals that you try and pack, right? Always. And now this metaphor that I'm really starting to stretch to its limits, let's converge with reality and try and make my life a little bit easier here. Let's get meta and let's imagine that your goal is not to lose weight or to try and stick to your diet, but that it's actually to climb a mountain. Let's say that the case, most likely you've already got all of the perfect kit that you need and it all fits perfectly in your perfect bag, and you don't have to deal with a bunch of different and competing, conflicting things. But for us normal people, us weekenders who actually have a lot going on in our lives, we've got a bunch of different things that we've got to try and meld together and make work, and they're not always going to fit neatly. So even if it's all stuff that we need for our personal climb, it still might be a battle to make it all fit. So step number four is identifying conflicts, because they will definitely be there. If your goal was to grow your business, but also to show up 3 to 4 times at the gym, that's going to be a conflict. If you are a passionate cook, versus wanting to follow a strict diet. There is going to be a conflict. If you want to stay disciplined all the time versus be a fun friend or a fun dad, you're going to have a conflict. But we can't scrap every conflicting motivation. Even the ones that make up your vision are probably going to compete with each other for space. What we want is to be able to forecast which ones are going to butt heads with each other and to anticipate that that's going to come. We don't want to be left making value judgments moment to moment without clarity and when our emotions are in the mix. Because especially when we know that, we love food or we've got a goal of comfort or pain avoidance at the same time as having these goals that require sacrifice, we're going to have a really, really hard time rolling with that. Spotting which goals clash means that we get to make our approach strategic. And that is what we aim to do in step number 5. And I'm sure in this step that if I really, really wanted to, I could maybe find a way to keep moving with this analogy, but I'm done with it. We're leaving it behind for now. In step 5, the goal is to engineer. We want to engineer around the conflicts that good goals have with each other. We want to engineer around the fact that we've got these implicit goals that maybe aren't good for our stated goal, but we can't just toggle off because we're human. What we want here is to make it such that you don't have to make moment-to-moment decisions where you've got 2 key goals facing off with each other and having to choose which one wins, or when you've got a plan to stick to, but you've also got a little fatty inside you that just wants to eat really bad. This is high order thinking. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but this video is already a little bit abstract in its material. It'll take a certain level of person to still be watching this far and another level of person to use the steps in it. Pretending that we can think this way 24/7 and make perfect decisions moment to moment, it's not going to happen. We've got these unstated goals of pain avoidance, comfort, what have you, not bothering your family, not being a boring friend. If I asked you to stack those things up against pulling off your vision, you would probably say, no, I'm willing to sacrifice. I want to achieve my vision. And that would be the right answer right now. But when you're standing in front of your wife, or when your husband's just made you dinner, or when your kids ask you to skip the gym to play with them, you still think you're going to choose perfectly? I mean, good luck, doggy, but I don't know that I would. In fact, I do know that I won't always. So we need to try and engineer our lives and our environments and our decisions in a way where we don't have to make all those calls and rely on ourselves to choose perfectly every time. You can do things that make it easier and stop you from depending on willpower. You can shield your goals by getting rid of the stuff in your house that you shouldn't eat. You can substitute by finding active things to do that you enjoy instead of couch slouching. You can friction engineer. You can take a different route home on the way from work to make sure you don't drive past your favorite takeout spot after you've had a bad day at work. There are loads of different things that you can do, but what we want is build it into actions instead of leave it up to constant effort. What we want is to have a plan that is engineered around our goals, not to pretend that we only have one motivation and then get pissed off with ourselves when we pursue other ones that were always there. And finally, step number 6, and perhaps the most critical step of all, step 6 is application. This stuff is all great in theory, but if you want it to be of any legitimate use, to finally start sticking to your diet, to losing weight, to building the body that you can feel proud of, then you need a strategy that actually works, that you can apply it to. You need a plan for getting in shape that, combined with your new ability to do the things you say you will actually get you the result that you want. And I happen to have a strategy that works pretty damn well, and I break it down in this video. So if you want to squeeze the most out of what you just learned, watch this video next, put them together, and I reckon you will like what happens.